But I was going to talk a little bit about last year.
It's tricky to turn on.
A couple of stories about my parents, about the farm where I grew up, and how my dad got dynamite from the road crew and blew up rocks on the farm. See this light. Wow, it's weird.
Oh.
I think this light is making the colors go and do weird things. I think that so I grew up on a farm in Virginia, and I have 3 brothers, so there's 4 of us. And we had to do chores around the farm and all that kind of stuff. But there was I'm jumping back and forth, but it all ties in together. But we have a book club, a men's book club, and the book we're reading right now is Make Sense of Your Story by is it Adam Young, and it started out talking about how your parents messed you up. I thought, what your parents did to mess your life up and ruin things for you. But then it gets into understanding how you get to where you are from there, and how you make sense of that, and how you survive that and create a better life. If you have children, and how much better you can deal with them and treat them, and it kind of helped me a little bit to understand. Last year I was talking about my father, and I really looked up to him. We did a lot of this. I would follow him around as he would do things and fix things and build things and make things, and I loved that. But my mother was, she stayed home with us. She didn't work, and we had this farm, so we had cows to milk, and we had cows to feed, and chickens where we had to go find the eggs, and chickens on the farm at the free range. You have to stand outside and listen, and they have a egg laying call. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but you have to listen for that and see where they are, because they would go high, and we would root around in the straw and bales of hay and then underneath of the shed and stuff like that, and find eggs and that kind of thing. But it was a really good, I thought it was a really good upbringing for me and my brothers. But when growing up on the farm, there was a dirt road that went by our house. We weren't at the end of the road, but we had a dirt road that went past our house. And one year they came through and they decided to widen the road. So we had some hardwood trees, and the East Coast are more known for hardwood trees and that kind of thing. So we had some cherry and some walnut and some oak and some beautiful trees, and they were going to cut them down because they had to widen the road. And I said, Dad, what are we going to do with these? And he said, well, we'll probably just cut them up in firewood and burn it. And I begged him not to do that. So we took the logs from all these trees, and we found a local sawmill. This guy, he was 90 years old, and he had this sawmill underneath of a little shed that he had built. It was driven by a Fordson tractor. That probably doesn't mean anything to you, but it used the big old flat belt, and it was probably a 1910 Fordson tractor, still using it to drive this sawmill. And his son was still working with him. His son had some autism, but he would work with his dad, and they would, this 90-year-old man and his 70-something-year-old son, they would flip the logs by hand these big logs. But they would cut all this lumber up, and I would take it home and put it in the barn and keep it dry and sticker it to make sure that it dried flat and true and all this kind of stuff, you know, and I love the wood. I collect wood because I make furniture. Those of you who know me know that I do some creative stuff. But one thing I did, because I went back home, when I would visit back home and I would check my wood, this cherry wood and this walnut and this oak every year, and I'm like, I can't do anything because I lived in Washington State. My wife and I met in Searcy, Arkansas at college, and I moved up here. So I've got all this nice lumber in Virginia, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna have to ship it home. So I would take duct tape and wrap it around like 3 chunks of wood so it wouldn't be over the weight limit to mail it. And I would go into the post office and they would look at me like, what are you doing? It's not a box, it's just rough wood. And that's what it was. And I would, you know, write a label and put it on there and mail it to myself. Well, I wound up building my wife and I's, our bedroom suite, all out of cherry, a pencil post bed, and a stand-up chest of drawers, 2 side tables, a cherry desk, and this is all from wood that I mailed myself in Virginia. And I was telling my brothers about this, and they're like, well, none of them really like to do that kind of thing. They're mostly into cars and small engines and computers. So, but one thing I did for them, this is a cherry table. It's a candlestick table, and this used to be a tree on the farm, and I cut it, you know, stickered it and all that, and then turned the pedestal here, you know, carved the legs here. I even made metal, it's called a spider, and it helps to keep the legs from splaying and splitting. So I made that and screwed it on the bottom, turn the tops on the lids. So there's 4 of these that match each other from the same tree that each one of my brothers has. And whenever I go back home and visit them at their homes, I go through their house and I find where they're keeping these. And I think they're not really sure of this whole story either, because sometimes I see it, you know, gathering dust in a corner, but that's okay, because I made 4 of these for them. But recently my brothers and I have been, we Zoomed together on, you know, like once a month, which I was like, why didn't we do this before? It's been around a while. So we're getting closer and closer, you know, from a distance, and I get to go back every few years and see them. But I was thinking of the life that we led, and one thing, when I was growing up, we moved out to this farm in Virginia. I told you that already once. But my father worked downtown DC, so he went 60 miles one way every day, so 120-mile round trip to work and back into DC, because he wanted to raise his boys on a farm out in Virginia, which I didn't really get the whole grasp of that until I grew up and realized that the sacrifice that he made for us. And he would do things like let me take logs and find a sawmill with an old guy to saw them up and stuff so I could ship them home to myself. But it was pretty good upbringing. But one thing I remember when we first moved to the farm, we're in this old farmhouse that they had built on all 4 sides of this log cabin. So we didn't even know it was a log cabin at the time. And my parents built a new house. So my dad, you know, my 3 brothers, 2 of them were older than me, and my youngest is about 7 years younger than I am. And he said, okay, we're gonna tear the cabin. We're gonna tear the old house down, because we moved into this new house. We started tearing it down and realized it was logs underneath. So this was a log cabin that was over 200 years old that we had been living in at that time. So it's probably over 300 years old now. It's still there, still has my sister-in-law's 92-year-old mother living in it on the farm. It's only about 100 feet from the main house. So that was my upbringing. But we were in that house, and I remember my mother coming in after we had moved to this farm. We hadn't been there long in this old house. It was around Christmas time, and my mom had said, we need to start going to church. And there was a little Church of Christ in Culpeper. And Mom said, we need to start going every Sunday. I want to raise my boys to go to church. So the whole story is that, you know, my mother was kind of hard on us, you know, making us do these chores. Looking back, you know, it wasn't terrible. We had to milk cows and chase cows around, and, you know, it was pretty good. So, but the whole point of this story is that all four of us are strong Christian men. And that's what I want to get to, that all four of us, and they were all successful in their different careers and everything, and just good Christian men. So this is a song by Lynard Skinner, not Freebird, but it's a song called Simple Man. So it's a simple song for a simple man. And if you know the chorus, you're welcome to sing along with me. And I've thrown my words on here because I forget sometimes, and I'll look down and to remember my notes. So. Mama told me when I was young, come sit beside me, my only son, and listen closely to what I say. Some sunny day. Take your time. Live too fast, troubles will come, but they won't last. You'll find a woman, you'll find love. Don't forget, son, there is someone up above. Simple kind of man, be someone you love and understand, and be a simple kind of man. Oh, won't you do this for me, son? If you can. Get your lust for the rich man's gold. All that you need now is in your soul, and you can do this, oh baby, if you try. All that I want for you, my son, is to be satisfied and be a simple kind of man. Be someone you love and understand, and be a simple kind of man. Oh, won't you do this for me, son, if you can? Don't you worry, you'll find yourself. Follow your heart now, and nothing else. And you can do this, oh baby, if you try. All that I want for you is to be satisfied and be a simple kind of man. Be someone you love and understand. Baby, be a simple kind of man. Oh, won't you do this for me, son, if you can?